Everybody, so we're going to start our Oldham video today at Top at Edge, which is where we are, and that's the pronunciation, that's the Oldham dialect pronunciation of Top at Edge, and it means top of the edge. So that's Oldham Edge up there. This is the White House, closed down a while ago. Joan Egg used to run this, and she did a great job. But in the vicinity, and I don't actually know, to be honest with you, if it was this building or possibly even that building. I'm not going to pretend to know, but I can tell you that back in the late 1800s, up this area of Oldham was a pub called the Boilermakers Arms, and it was run by a lady called, what's she called now? I think she's called Mary Stevens. She was the landlady. And again, I don't know the exact vicinity, but I do know it was called the Boilers Arms because the Oldham Boilers work was over here. So all the boiler makers would be up here, possibly in this area, I imagine, from what I've seen on the information that I've seen. Right, everyone, we're going to leave the car right over there. This bit here is where we've just come down from the edge, and what we're going to do now is we're going to take a walk right down Henshaw Street, I think. I'm going to tell you about what was where and what was what. This area that you're looking at here, I think it's called the rifle range now, isn't it? Well, back in the day, around 1891, this area was known as Sarah Moor, and it was common ground, you know, like a moorland. And people could come and go. I don't know who owned it, if anybody, but that was the name of it. So I'm going to give you some history about Thomas Henshaw, who I believe Henshaw Street is named after. I mean, he's probably more prominently known in Oldham these days for the fact that he gave £20,000, which is the equivalent of 1.6 million in today's money, 3 years before he died, and we'll show you where I think he died. But 3 years before he passed, he'd married for the second time. His wife was called Sarah, funnily enough, and she was younger than him. He'd been married once before. I think his first wife was called Mary. I'll put a correction in, as usual, if I get it wrong. But he'd married his first wife, and for years they didn't have any children. Then eventually they had a son, and can't remember his name, but they did have a son. Oh, there's one of them old slides, look. Oh, I'd love to go down that. Just go and have a look at it. I'm not going to go down it. That slide's been there for donkey's years, hasn't it? If you've been down that as a kid, let me know. I know it's been there for years. I'm sure I used to go on it. Fabulous, them. Oh, look, it's a little park. Why is there no kids on it? Mind you, it's spoiling hot, isn't it? Let's have a look at the slide on the way back up. Let's keep on track what we're actually trying to do. So, yeah, he got married the first time, and for years and years and years they didn't have any children. Then eventually his wife got pregnant and she gave birth to a son, and he lived for 10 years and then sadly passed away. I think not long after that his first wife passed away, and I think when he got into his early 60s he married a woman in her 30s. She was called Sarah. Now, he didn't have any children with her, but she was younger than him. And Thomas Henshaw was just coming up to Barca Road now, but Thomas Henshaw was extremely wealthy, and he was from Prestwich, and I've actually been to Prestwich to try and find his grave this morning. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. I couldn't find it. I did find some interesting graves. That'll be up in a separate video, but because I couldn't find him, I didn't see the point in putting it within this video, and I thought we'll just do the history walk and talk. So this is Horsedge Street. Horsedge Street, by the way, the area in Oldham, this area in Oldham was called Horsedge, and it had a a hall which was demolished in 1850, I think. But I've actually got a picture of Horsehead Hall. I'll put it in. And I'm going to do a bit more of a detailed video on the old history of Oldham pretty soon. But I'm pretty confident that we're coming up to an area now. On the corner here, it's a shop nowadays, but I'm pretty sure that used to be the Sun Inn. And we're actually heading towards the more populated part of Henshaw Street, and we're going to be getting to Thomas Barca's estate. So you've all heard of Barca Street estate. Well, years ago in the early 1800s, late 1700s, that was the home of Thomas Barca. So Thomas Barca was Mr. Henshaw's business partner. Henshaw, as I said, well, I didn't say, Henshaw was a hatter. And both he and Mr. Barca sort of set up business. In fact, we'll cross over because it's actually down here. These lads here on this bike and a helmet. Oh no, it's a normal bike. So, yeah, so Thomas Henshaw, as I said, he married this younger woman, and for all accounts, they had an happy marriage. He died at the age of 70. His business was literally just here. We're just going to get to where it was. But I'll tell you the story of what happened to him. So he died at the age of 70, and he was born in Prestwich, came to Oldham, made his money, and then when he sort of retired, his business was still going, but he wasn't running it, if you know what I mean. So he retired, but he used to still go out every day on his horse, and he would ride around, you know, here, there and everywhere. And I think this particular day he must have decided to take a ride up to Oldham to maybe come and check out factories, you know, see how it's being managed, that sort of thing. And basically he sorry, man, went blank then. Yeah, so basically he'd rode up to Oldham this particular day, and he was coming looking at the factory, and the factory had a reservoir near it. Now, funnily enough, there was also a reservoir up near the Boilermakers. But I don't think, I mean, there was reservoirs all over Oldham to support the factories. But anyhow, get to the point, Sarah. So this particular day, he must have been like booted off his horse or something, because he ended up landing in the reservoir. Maybe he hit his head. I don't know. Maybe he hit his head, but he basically didn't get out of the reservoir and he drowned. And they put it down to an accident. Now the reason why we're slowing down here is this. Excuse me. This is the site of Henshaws Hat Factory. So it actually spanned all of this corner of Lord Street, and it went right down this side of the street. So around about here, somewhere along here, and that's the old drill hall, which is down there. But around about here is where Mr. Henshaw took his last breath. Now, across the road, let's get across the road if we can without getting run over. Hey, look at all those, can you see those windows on the hill above there, everyone? So this is the interesting thing. So you remember I just mentioned to you that Mr. Henshaw had a business partner called Thomas Barca. Thomas Barca, by the way, if you're familiar with the channel, if you cast your mind back or go back and watch it, I'll put it in now anyway. You'll be looking at it now. When I went to Oldham Church, I went into one of the tombs downstairs. It's open, and in that tomb was the coffin and the body of Thomas Barca. So Thomas Barca was Mr. Henshaw's partner. And the reason why this is called Barca Street and Barca Street Estate, like so Barca Street is down there, but the reason why this is now called Barca Street Estate is because this was Thomas Barca's estate. So he had a big mansion here with beautiful trees, and it was just stunning. And he lived in luxury. Mr. Henshaw I want to say that Mr. Henshaw had a house over the back there, but I'm not completely 100% sure. But in any event, this is why this is called Barca Street Estate, and this is why we've got Barca Street on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to just carry on walking. I'm just going to carry on walking and talking as usual. And then when we get to the bottom, I'll show you the old Barca Street sign. And Barca Street itself used to run through the back of this estate. So the reason why I'm keeping filming here, hang on, I don't know if that woman's having a kid pee on the floor. Oh no, she's coming now. Just didn't want to, you know, when a kid needs a wee in, I just didn't want to film. So the reason why I'm showing you this bit, I mentioned this in a previous video, cemetery or graves video that I did. This building, as you see it, is obviously very modern looking, but this was the house. It looks modernish now because it's just covered in all of that plaster and other bits and pieces. But this used to be the Buff Club, and it also used to be. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this was his house. I might have it completely wrong, but Mayor of Oldham, William Bowden, lived here, as did his son. His son died really young. He got thrown from a horse, another one that got thrown from a horse, and passed away. But the reason why I know it was here, well, I just know because I did my research, but the old gateposts are still here, and that was from the original. And I think this was the original house, I really, really do, you know. But there you go. So this estate is now looking a bit tired. I think these were put up in the 60s. Looks like they've sold some on there as well, so maybe some of them are privately owned. Right, let's get down to the bottom and have a look at Barca Street. Do you see this street sign here, everybody? Lombard Street, leading to Anvil Way, Orleans Way. That, again, called Orleans Way because there used to be another estate, apart from Mr. Barker's, where that finished, there was Orleans House. A very old family home with some prominent Oldhamers that live there. I think it's... someone's got the music on, can you hear? We've got the old 3Cs here, I believe that's still running. And I think what we're going to do when we walk back, I think we're going to take a walk through that estate because I find it quite interesting. Seems there's still people in Oldham when you get a little bit of sunshine. They open the windows full pelt and entertain people with the music. I actually quite like that music. I'm not having a go. I think it's quite cool. But nice to see it still happening in Oldham and some people are still doing it. I don't actually know what this building was used for. I think I did know and I've completely forgotten. But this is where you used to, Barca Street and Henshaw Street used to meet. And actually, if you look on the side of the building up here, you can see the original Henshaw Street sign. Can you see that? It was actually carved into this building. Oh look, this is all smashed off. And then on the other side, you've got the Barca Street sign, which is still there. And you don't think you can actually make it out anymore, unfortunately. But that there used to be the equivalent. You can just see the ER and the ET at the end. I'm sure I filmed that. That must have fallen off recently. I'm sure I filmed that when it was still there. So yeah, so literally this is how this would work. So you'd come round from Henshaw Street, you come all the way around, and then literally Barca Street went this way and all the way up to Rochdale Road, sort of running adjacent really with or alongside Prompton Street. To finish off today's video, because we've got to go back up now to get the car, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a walk through Barca Street Estate, and I'll tell you the rest of the story actually because I haven't told you all of it. So as you've said, I will pick up from Mr. Henshaw. So I've shown you Thomas Barker, I've shown you where his estate was, I've shown you where he rests. I wish I could have found that grave for Mr. Henshaw, I really do. I tried my best, everyone. If you want to see that video, by the way, that will be up on the channel, possibly tomorrow night. So have a look at that. There's actually some really impressive graves down there, and there's a sir and a dame down there. So yeah, really interesting. But yeah, Mr. Henshaw, so that fateful day when he was thrown and he drowned in the reservoir, his wife obviously was his widow, and she was left with a considerable fortune. However, she contested the will, and I think the reason why she contested it, she said that he wasn't of sound mind when he wrote his will. That was 3 years prior to his death, so he would have been about 67, 66. This says welcome to Barca Street. They've changed it recently. So yeah, she said that he wasn't of sound. I'm sure we've walked through here before, everybody, but we'll just keep going. She said he wasn't of sound mind, and I think what she was sort of contesting was the fact that he'd left so much money to build Blue Coat School, because that's what he did ultimately. He employed lots of people in Oldham. He and his family were the first people to introduce Sunday schools to Oldham. He was a very religious man. Let's have a look up here. And yeah, so his wife kicked off and said he wasn't of sound mind when he wrote that will, and I'm going to contest it. And I think she wanted the money back. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he left £20,000, which in today's money is the equivalent of 1.6 million. So a lot of money. But you have to ask yourself, that cat there. You have to ask yourself, if he was able to leave the equivalent of what would be now, just to put it into context for us, £1.6 million just to build a school in Oldham, you have to ask yourself, how much money did that bloke have? You know, he must have had fortunes, unless he didn't have fortunes and she was kicking off because he'd left so much to the school. Who knows? I suppose that's one for the historians, isn't it? But there you have it. I'll tell you something, everyone. I've actually took the wrong route because I've come out onto Henshaw Street now, so. But I'll tell you, it's a bloody warm one and there's no shelter anywhere. Let's walk up this way. So yeah, I quite like these flats. I've always liked these. I think this estate is really nice. I think if you live here, you're fortunate because, you know, you're right close to Oldham for everything that you need. So if you want to go for a night out, you know, you don't have to worry about taxis. It seems relatively quiet. I'm sure there's one or two people who live on here make it difficult for other people. You always get that, don't you? But on the whole, I think it's a nice place to live. And in a sense, I'm a bit biased because although it wasn't on this side, it wasn't Barca Street. But my mum was brought up on Doncaster Walk, which is part of St Mary's Estate. Actually, I think my mum said they call it something else, but I call it St Mary's. Anyhow, I remember that house being really nice because obviously when I was a young 3 or 4, I used to go there before my grandma and granddad moved. But I remember it being really nice, and the house was just beautiful inside, really nice to set out. You know what, I think I'm going to cross over. So everyone, I'm going to wrap this video up now. Just to say that obviously Mrs Henshaw number 2 was not successful in proving that her husband was not of sound mind, and the money did go to building Blue Coat School. I'll give you an interesting fact as well. I've mentioned this before, but if you've not seen it, I'll tell you. Blue Coat was built by the same architect that built Oldham Church. And I've had a few people deny it to me over the years, including a fellow that I toured around the church with, and he said it absolutely isn't true. But there are tunnels underneath Oldham. There's many. There's one that goes, many that go over to the old town hall. So the old town hall to the church, there are tunnels that go under there. And I know that to be absolutely 100% true, because my cousin was in there about 20 odd years ago. They managed to get in, don't know how, somewhere, they got in somewhere, I don't know how. So that happened, but also there's a tunnel that goes from Oldham Church to Blue Coat School, and I know that to be fact because many years ago when my mum went to Blue Coat and she was bell ringing at Oldham Church, her and a few colleagues that were bell ringers, some that are still within the bell ringing community now I believe, they all went down with Canon Kirkman, who was the priest at the time, or the vicar, and Canon Kirkman showed them the entrance to the tunnel. There were no doors on there, but my mum knows from being at Blue Coat, her dad was the caretaker, and he showed them the door one day. So that's the entrance to the tunnel that takes you to the church. And some people might say, well, why would you need tunnels from the church to the school? Well, think about it. You know, you've got a load of kids in a school who are boarded there at one point, and they need to go to church. And Mr. Henshaw, I remember, very religious, because he introduced the Sunday schools and all of that. And I think he insisted, as part of the money that he gave, that these children would be coached in, or would be, you know, required to go to church. But anyway, you've got Oldham in the early 1800s, and you've got this Oldham Church and kids that need to get there. Doesn't it make sense? During bad storms, during the winter, snowstorms, you know, it can get like up here, you know, that the kids were able to get there quickly. Through the pub, sentence. So yeah. And that person there has just dropped a load of rubbish outside that car. You see that? It wasn't the driver, I think it was a kid in the back. He just threw it out onto the street. How nice. So there we have it. What exactly has it thrown? I don't know, some sort of tape. Anyway, everyone, look at this old stone here. Just left. I imagine that was probably there years ago to stop people from driving on the edge. You're not moving that, are you? There's my car, hallelujah. It's absolutely sweltering. So everybody, we're going to go now. I'm going to go to Shaw Road. I'm going to have a look at Chazza down there. And then I'm going to go and get my friend Angie, I call her. And we're going to go up to the Black Lad and get a spot of lunch. They do some really nice stuff up there as well. So looking forward to that. And then I'll be dropping Ange back off, going back to Barnsley, editing up this video. And then, as I said, tomorrow I will edit up the cemeteries one I did today in Prestwich, if you're interested. Right, everybody, so we're at the Black Lad. Just had a meal in there, and it was gorgeous as usual. And now, my friend who's with me is just having a fag, and I just thought I'd show you this farmer's down there cutting the grass. And then I don't know if you can see it, but in the distance you can see Manchester city centre. It's quite cloudy today. That's the Oldham Civic Centre there in the distance, and then you've got the church there to the side of it. So yeah. There are nice parts of Oldham. Anyhow, keep an eye out for the cemeteries video tomorrow, everyone, and I'll see you in that one.